Null was an ancient malevolent deity whose existence predates the universe itself, and was originally content to drift through the endless abyss that existed before time began. When the Celestials began creating the universe, Null retaliated by creating a sword of living darkness, the All-Black, from his newly cast shadow, decapitating one of them. Cast back into the void by the other Celestials, Null used the slain Celestial's severed head as a forge to temper his sword in its cosmic energies. Intent on devouring the divine light that had usurped his kingdom of darkness, Null manifested a symbiotic suit of armor from the eldritch darkness he commanded, and embarked on a genocide against the other gods, becoming a legendary figure of terror for divine beings even billions of years later. Null created an artificial planet from the living abyss to serve as his throne world and base of operations, manifested a horde of wyvern-like monsters made out of living abyss, and began conquering countless planets, devouring entire civilizations, extinguishing stars, and smothering entire planets in eldritch darkness. The few gods Null spared were forcibly drafted into his army, enslaved to his will and transformed into monsters using the living abyss, placed as sentries to guard the worlds he'd conquered. At some point afterward, Null was badly wounded in combat against an army of gold-armored gods and crash-landed on a desolate planet, where his symbiote sword left him for one of the indigenous inhabitants. After recovering from his injuries, Null began experimenting with his powers and discovered he could bond lesser life forms to amorphous parasites manifested from the living abyss, such as the symbiotes and Exelon. As the symbiotes bonded to benevolent hosts, the hive mind became tainted with notions of honor and nobility, leading to them rebelling against their god and imprisoning him at the heart of the throne world, which they renamed Clintar, their word for cage, forming an order known as the Agents of the Cosmos. The symbiotes of Clintar subsequently attempted to expunge their dark origins and redeem themselves by acting to protect the cosmos they'd once terrorized. After the symbiotes were freed from Null's control and formed themselves into the Clintar, most of the symbiotes' memories were presumably altered or erased, as Venom later believed itself to be the 998th generation of a lineage of symbiotes born on the planet Clintar. The symbiote bonded to an alien native to an icy world, who it later recalled as its first host, believing him to be a noble warrior and worthy host. In reality, the warrior used the symbiote to carry out a genocide against his homeworld, twisting it into a predatory and hate-filled being addicted to rage. The alien arms dealer Hayes Manser claimed to have captured the symbiote, dosing it with chemicals to further amplify its aggression and bloodlust. But it lacked recollection of these events. Despite these experiences, rather than seeking to dominate its subsequent host, the Clintar desired to bond with and protect them. As a result, it was eventually imprisoned by its malevolent brethren, who considered it an aberration and feared it would contaminate the gene pool. The symbiote's third human host, Eddie Brock, had been a reporter for the Daily Globe who was fired after Spider-Man debunked his story, exposing the identity of the Sin Eater, humiliating him and ruining his career to the point where he could only find work with cheap gossip magazines. Contemplating suicide after being disowned by his abusive father and divorced by his wife, Eddie entered Our Lady of Saints Church to pray for forgiveness. Attracted by his mutual hatred toward Spider-Man, the symbiote bonded with Eddie, suggesting the name Venom for their merged form. However, Eddie's hatred for Peter further twisted the symbiote's own feelings towards its former host into a fixation with either reclaiming or killing him. Despite its bond to Eddie, the symbiote viewed him as an inferior host and saw Spider-Man as its soulmate, frequently making efforts to return to him between attempts to kill him. The symbiote also began manipulating Eddie's memories and biochemistry to make him believe he had a deceased uncle and sister, and that he had been diagnosed with cancer, gaslighting him into staying bonded to it whenever he questioned their relationship. Carnage proved more powerful than its progenitor, forcing Spider-Man and Venom to call a truce, though Eddie would switch back and forth several times between either helping Spider-Man or fighting against him. After a battle with Styx, where the Venom symbiote was presumed dead, its former host Eddie Brock was incarcerated in a prison for normal humans. His cellmate was Cletus Cassidy, a psychotic murderer serving 11 life sentences, with whom he developed an antagonistic relationship. However, the Venom symbiote was not dead, merely incapacitated for a time, and after it recovered, it sought Eddie out and rebonded with him, Venom departing to resume his quest for revenge against Spider-Man. However, the Venom symbiote had been about to spawn as a response to Thanos seeking the Infinity Gems, and left its offspring, the 999th of its lineage, behind. The newborn symbiote sought out the nearest available host, latching onto Cassidy and entering his body through a cut on his hand, where it amalgamated with his blood. Transformed into a black and red monster, Cassidy dubbed himself Carnage and went on a months-long killing spree, leaving the message "Carnage rules" written in blood at the scene of each murder he committed. When Eddie Brock separated from the Venom symbiote, traces of it were left in his body. Later, suffering from cancer, Brock started working as a volunteer in the Feast Center. Martin Lee, the founder of Feast and alter ego of the supervillain Mr. Negative, used his powers to cure Eddie's cancer. In the process, Lee accidentally infused the remnants of the symbiote in Eddie's bloodstream with his power, and fused them to his white blood cells, creating a new hybrid symbiote which manifested when the Venom symbiote attempted to leave its then current host, Matt Gargan, and return to Eddie. This new symbiote, dubbed anti-venom by Eddie, demonstrated tremendous healing powers and other powers that differ from the Venom symbiote, such as producing antibodies that can cure any known disease and remove any other impurities within a human body. Unlike other symbiotes, this symbiote is completely mindless, and Eddie Brock is in full control of his actions. This symbiote was destroyed when it was used as a cure for the spider virus. Years later, Dr. Steven used elements of the anti-venom symbiote to create a new cure for the Venom symbiote's toxic shock syndrome that could adapt alongside it. When high concentrations of this serum was exposed to the Venom symbiote's biomass bonded to Flash Thompson, the anti-venom symbiote was artificially recreated. However, when Flash died at the hands of the Red Goblin, the replica died along with him. Born from Carnage as the 1000th symbiote in its lineage, Toxin was feared to be the strongest and most dangerous of their race by both Carnage and Venom besides Null. Shortly after being born, the symbiote united with police officer Pat Mulligan. Years later, the symbiote was removed from Mulligan by Blackheart, who beat Pat Mulligan to death in a gutter, and contained in a secret lab in a casino in Las Vegas. With the help of Venom, Jack-O-Lantern took it to his boss, Prime Master, who found the perfect host in Eddie Brock, and forced him to become Toxin's host. After bonding with Eddie, Toxin took over its host and worked with the Savage Six, attacking its grandfather symbiote Venom. Toxin tells Venom that after Venom is gone, only it will remain for an event it called the Spawning. The meaning of this is unknown as of now. Venom managed to incapacitate Toxin, but chose not to kill it or its host. Later, Toxin attacked Venom and was separated from Eddie. Venom set the Toxin symbiote on fire, but it managed to recover its host and dragged him into the flames to die alongside it. Both the symbiote and Eddie survived their attempted immolation and recovered from their injuries. Eddie and the Toxin symbiote worked out a truce to hunt down and kill Venom, after which they would try to kill each other, and began hunting down and killing numerous criminals and gang members. Toxin eventually tracked Venom down to Philadelphia and tried to kill him, but Flash's speech to Eddie caused him to call off his vendetta and accept his bond with Toxin, using it to return to his lethal protector lifestyle. Following Eddie's arrest by the FBI, the Toxin symbiote was suppressed using symbiote inhibitor drugs, and is only capable of taking action if injected with the antidote. What's your guys' favorite symbiote? Let me know in the comments who you would like to see me do a story on next. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and turn on post notifications so you'll never miss another video. Thanks for watching, and remember that with great power comes great responsibility.